Namaste. Welcome to episode 2 of Mental Health Wellness with Divya Hari. Today, we're talking about something which is very general, very normal, something which everybody experiences, something which I experience, something which you experience too. Today, we are going to be talking about anxiety. To talk about anxiety, we have with us on our panel Ms. Devanshi Rao. Ms. Devanshi Rao is a counselling psychologist from Bangalore. She is the founder of an online mental health platform, Niramaya. She is running her own private practice. She has finished her master's in counselling psychology. So today we brought up a very general topic, anxiety, something which everybody experiences, but something which goes neglected and something which many people are not aware that they might be feeling anxious, or something that they might be experiencing. So could you tell us what anxiety is?
Anxiety is nothing but excessive fear about a specific situation or an incident. It is generally a perceived threat about something or someone or a situation, right? I can be anxious about driving because driving, I have certain thoughts about driving that makes me anxious. Or some people might be anxious about talking to someone new or facing a camera, right? So you can be anxious about so many things, but anxiety is very normal and very common, and all of us experience anxiety to a certain extent, right? Yeah.
Like you mentioned, anxiety can look different with everybody. What I might feel anxious for, maybe someone else might not be. I might be very anxious to go on a stage and speak, but someone else, it might be a cakewalk.
Yeah, might do it with a lot of ease.
Right. Yeah. But for the other person, maybe giving an exam might provoke anxiety in them. But for me, anxiety with giving exams might not be very prevalent, right? So how will a person know that they're experiencing anxiety? What are the signs and symptoms that show up when you can say, oh, okay, so this person is experiencing anxiety or this person is anxious?
Some of the basic symptoms that happen is rapid breathing, increased heart rate, sweating, trembling, racing thoughts. Your chest feels heavy.
Like you mentioned, a lot of things like trembling or shaking of your feet, or even
biting your nails.
Yes, or even sweating for that matter, are all sort of symptoms of anxiety, right? So for different people, it is going to manifest differently. In fact, some people also tell that they feel like they're losing control over themselves. They feel like something very bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
So which is what anxiety is, right? So being so fearful of something that cannot really cause you harm, like
most cases.
Yes, in most cases, cannot cause you imminent harm.
Yeah, right.
So when it comes to, again, manifestation of symptoms or displaying of symptoms, how different is it with different people?
I think some people might experience gastrointestinal problems like bloating, gastric issues. Some people might also experience vomiting because of anxiety, right?
Yes.
There are so many symptoms like that, and your blood pressure as well. And so it really shows itself in different forms. Some people, when they are anxious, they tend to scratch themselves. There are so many things that happen. So it's, of course, different for everybody. Yeah.
So as normal as anxiety is, it also goes to a level where it impacts people's life, right? So wherein they're losing sleep, where there is lack of appetite, or for some cases there is even binge eating. Some people stress eat, right? So there are times where a person's anxiety is so bad that it impacts their everyday living. What is your take on that?
That is when it is considered as an anxiety disorder, when it is impeding their everyday functioning, when anxiety is so much that even daily routine, daily life activities become impossible, and they're not able to sleep, not able to eat, and they are starting to avoid all the situations that cause them anxiety. Like, sometimes when people are anxious to go and talk to people and be in social situations, they're completely avoiding all the social situations, and that can cause loneliness and isolation, right? Nobody can really understand what they are going through, so they tend to be sidelined. So when things get that to that extent where you start avoiding everything, it impedes your daily life functioning, and you're also going towards suicidal ideation and all of that, I think that's when it's considered an anxiety disorder, and you should really seek help for it and not ignore it.
Like you rightly mentioned, that seeking help when it's interfering with your everyday life. Like we always say, treating anxiety or treating any mental health disorder like you would treat something to do with your physical body, right?
Right.
So for example, if you're having continuous headaches, you won't be ignoring that, you will be taking action.
Yeah, definitely go to the doctor and get it checked.
Yes,
right?
yes. And for that matter, continuous headaches can be a sign of anxiety in its own way, right?
True.
The amount of thoughts that are running in a person's head continuously, it can cause headaches.
Constant overwhelm.
Yes, constantly being overwhelmed, constantly feeling like something's going to happen to them. They are under threat, or they are exposed to harm. Can cause them to so many physical symptoms. And ignoring that can only worsen it. So what do you think can happen if persistent anxiety is ignored?
I think it can lead to great danger for the person, first of all, he is not able to talk about it with anybody else, so that makes him feel very isolated and lonely, and plus it can lead to a range of disorders, right? It can really impact your physical health. You're not able to function, you're not able to really go to work or function well otherwise as well, right? You're not able to exercise, you're not able to eat properly. This constant worry will kind of impact your overall health, right? So I think you should be paying attention to the signs.
What do you have to say about this when people say that anxiety is something which is all in our head?
Anxiety is not all in our head. It is very real.
Like we spoke about it before, it is actually not all in our heads.
Of course.
There is biological evidence that there is anxiety. A person does feel anxious, and a lot of people, when a person is experiencing anxiety, they go tell him or her that don't be anxious, don't overthink, or don't feel that way, or like don't worry.
That's a very invalidating statement to tell someone who's going through something, right? Even the statement, calm down. Calm down, it's okay, forget it. It's not helpful, because that person is going through that, and you saying that one statement is not going to help them. Rather, you can ask, okay, how can I help you? How do you want me to support you right now? Is there something that I can do for you to calm down right now? Or how do I soothe you? Do you want some water? Things like these help, because just invalidating their experience outright and asking them to calm down is definitely not going to help.
Yes, and when it comes to saying don't feel anxious, it is like when you have a headache, I ask you don't feel headache, or like don't have a headache.
No, it's like, oh, you can stop the headache.
Stop the headache, or like it's something very basic as when you have a fever, stop it. It's like
people don't understand the impact that their words or the language that can have
the
on the
intentions
other person.
They have can be very pure. It can be to support the person, or it can come from a place of concern,
right?
But in reality, it can be worsening them. It can put them in a position where they feel, oh, okay, am I being a burden by feeling anxious?
But I think intent doesn't matter, right? Impact does.
Yes.
So I think the words you choose, the language that you choose, and how you support someone is very crucial to the other person as well. And it's just simple. If you don't know what to say, you can just say that, like, I don't know how to support you right now, I don't know what to say, but I'm gonna be here for you. I'm right here, I'm not leaving you, I'm not going anywhere, right? So you can say that if you don't know what to say, but don't say the wrong thing.
Yes.
By saying, ask them to calm down, asking them to calm down, stop crying, stop being anxious. Those sentences don't help.
And you very beautifully mentioned what does help. Instead of offering advice to the person as to, oh, okay, you can do this to maybe help with your anxiety, or going and asking them, okay, what can I do to support you at this time? Or maybe even sitting next to them until they feel better, or asking them what you could do for them is
maybe
very
just
beneficial.
holding them for all that might matter. Like you just hold them, sit with them, talk to them, give them space to express themselves, get them some water, get them something to eat. All these things are so simple and so small, but yet can have such a huge difference.
Yes,
for
definitely.
That person.
It can have a very profound impact for them. Just the fact that, okay, I have someone to support me.
Yeah.
There is one more thing which I've really observed is people saying that a child cannot feel anxious. People saying that you are too young to experience anxiety, or why do you have anxiety in this age?
There's no age limit. I mean, anxiety doesn't come at a particular age, right? Small children can feel anxious. They are also going through some things, going through the struggles that are related to their age.
Yes.
So that will cause them some amount of anxiety. And if it is too much, then it's good to take them to a mental health professional. But you cannot disregard or invalidate someone's struggles because theirs look like it is smaller than yours.
Like you mentioned, that they will be going through something that is related to their age, that is as they're developing. So for example, a 6-year-old who's going to school can feel very anxious because it is a very new experience for them.
Of course.
Right? Or like if adolescent is stepping out of their school and getting into a new phase of college, it can cause them anxiety.
Yeah.
Or there is one more thing which I've also observed, that men cannot feel anxious, or men are supposed to man up.
God, yeah.
Right? So it feels very
I think there are so many expectations for men to be a certain way. That's again that has come with patriarchy and toxic masculinity, because men cannot express, men cannot cry, men cannot be anxious, men cannot feel bad, and if men do all of those things, then they're considered weak, right? So I think we have to get away with that narrative, because men are human beings that should be allowed to express themselves without being judged, right? So I don't think I feel like vulnerability is strength.
Do you think that this expectation out of a man that they shouldn't feel anxious can cause them anxiety itself?
Of course. They have to put up a front, right? Like they have to put up a facade where they're like, oh, I should not show them that I'm anxious. I should not show that I'm scared. Men are allowed to feel scared, allowed to feel anxious, allowed to cry, right? And adding this another layer that I'm not supposed to, I have to pretend to be a certain way to fit into the society, can also create so much of anxiety.
It's like shutting them into a pressure cooker and just letting them be. So we spoke about what anxiety is. We spoke about the signs and symptoms. We spoke about how normal it is for every age group to experience this. For obvious reasons, therapy being one of the very useful tools or useful ways to deal with anxiety, it is not always available, right? Because a therapist is available only during certain hours. What are some ways where we as people in general can do to deal with our anxiety, our everyday anxiety? So for example, I feel very anxious before giving an interview. I feel very anxious if I have to talk to somebody new. I cannot call my therapist and tell him that, I'm feeling anxious, what do I do?
Yeah.
So
but before telling that there are different ways to soothe anxiety, I also want to say that there are so many different types of anxiety disorders, like generalized anxiety disorder, or health anxiety, social anxiety, panic disorders. So there are a lot of things which I'm assuming you will touch base on in the next episodes. But some things that you can do without going to therapy. Some of the things that you can do to manage anxiety is the first one is grounding technique. Grounding techniques are nothing but the techniques that help you bring you back to the present moment or to the reality. And one of it is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique, right? So there are 5 things that we can see right now. Would you like to name it?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I can see this table, I can see the couch, I can see you, I can see the pillow behind you. Okay, I've done 4, right? And I can see this.
Okay. And then 4 things you can touch.
I can touch myself here, I can touch the couch, I can touch this table,
Yeah.
I can touch the floor beneath me.
Yeah, okay. And then 3 things you can hear.
I can hear your voice.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear the fan.
Uh-huh.
And I can hear the traffic outside.
2 things you can smell.
I can smell food and I can smell my perfume.
Okay. And 1 thing you can taste.
Okay, water.
Water. Okay. Yeah, so this is one of the techniques that you can use to...
So I think this was so helpful because I did not focus on my thoughts, but I was busy searching for things I can see, things I can touch, things I can smell. So this is a very essential technique to sort of stimulate your organs because you're shifting your focus from your thoughts to your senses.
Yes, yes, right. I think there's also this one exercise that I make my clients do is you can hold a ball, a tennis ball or any sort of ball. You can see the color, describe the color, how big it is, how fluffy or how hard it is, and feel the texture around it. So you're engaging your senses and you're touching it, feeling it, and like thinking about it.
I think that's very helpful. If not a ball, even probably like
anything,
a pillow or even any anything you can hold in your hand, any object, anything that you can carry and feel in your hand. It makes you shift your focus to that object and probably describing that object.
Yeah, there is this ice cube trick that I also help my clients with, teach my clients about, is when you are about to go into a panic mode or you're feeling very anxious, you can take an ice cube and put it on your wrist, right? So that helps your body get out of the fight or flight thing and concentrate on the sensation there, and you're not thinking about the thoughts. So that is one technique. And breathing techniques are really wonderful. There are different types of breathing techniques, like the box breathing, where the person inhales for 4 seconds, holds for 4 seconds, exhales for 4 seconds, and holds for 4 seconds. So it is the square 4 4 4 4. So it is a square breathing technique or a box breathing technique.
Can we try it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's. So we inhale for 4 seconds first, right?
Yeah. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Yeah. So that is one round of box breathing. You can do like a good 4 or 5 rounds to feel better. And there is another breathing technique called pursed lip breathing, where you make your lip inward and breathe out through that. And exhale should be longer than the inhale. So you go. This stimulates your vagus nerve, and that helps you deal with the stress or the anxiety that you're facing. Yeah, so that is one of the things that you can do. So till now we spoke about grounding techniques and breathing techniques.
When we talk about breathing techniques, people think that so many people might find it funny that we're talking about techniques of breathing, and breathing is something which
happens
is so
very
normal.
natural.
We are like always breathing. So when it comes to breathing techniques, it is timing our breaths just to ensure that our lungs are expanding and we are directing our attention from our thoughts to our breathing, to our lungs, or maybe to inhaling and exhaling, to holding our breath. So these are called breathing techniques. Again, when we were speaking about mindfulness, which is nothing but bringing our awareness and attention to the present moment and living the moment as it passes, and not contemplating the next moment or not contemplating the next hour. So me being mindful is me being here with you on this couch and speaking. So which is what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is again very, very hard to achieve because we are anxious human beings and we do tend to think about what we're going to be doing 2 hours later. I have to cook dinner tonight, or I have to fuel my car. So there are constant things that are running in our mind for the future. What we are realizing over here is that I cannot control what I can do 2 hours later.
Right.
All I can control is what I can do right now. So what I can do right now is talk to you. Right, and not deal with my thoughts. How do you as a therapist deal with anxiety? So day in and day out, when we are exposed to a lot of external emotions, we do tend to sort of make it ours, and that does somewhat promote anxiety in us. So for example, health anxiety.
Right.
When we talk to a client who is experiencing a health crisis or who has experienced death of a loved one and they are grieving, that sort of brings anxiety for us too. It sort of brings us awareness of our health.
Yeah.
Right.
About our mortality.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you as a therapist deal with anxiety when it comes to anything?
I think first and foremost, I acknowledge that I'm feeling anxious, because that really helps me to move forward. And after that, I probably, if I am too anxious, I breathe a couple of times, and I also talk to myself. I ask myself, okay, you are feeling anxious. Okay, why are you feeling anxious? What is the worst thing that could happen? How would you feel if that is going to happen, if that is not going to happen? But one thing I've observed is in anxiety, we always assume the worst case scenario.
Yes.
Right? But I ask myself, I change that direction and reframe that, okay, what if this works out for me? Like even now, while coming, you asked me to come here and speak, this was very anxiety inducing for me because I've never done something like this, right? But I pushed myself saying, okay, what are you anxious about? Like, I am talking to you, you're going to be talking to me. This is my first time that I'm doing this. It's okay. It's okay to be anxious, and I pushed through. I spoke to myself about it. I did a little bit of breathing as well. So I think breathing techniques really help. And there is also this technique called tapping, where you tap meridian points of your body and you tell yourself that you're safe, and you're okay. I think creating safety, even for people dealing with health anxiety, is very important.
Yes,
it's very, very important. Creating safety for people. Yeah.
That is very essential. Just making yourself feel that, okay, you're safe, and at the moment there is nothing which is causing me harm.
Right.
So before we wrap up, there is one more thing which I've observed, especially it happens to me too, secondary anxiety, feeling anxious about having anxiety.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
I think that is very normal, because when we are anxious, we also show certain behaviors, right? Probably when I'm anxious, or anybody, like if somebody is anxious in social situations, they probably tend to isolate themselves. They probably tend to be a little away from the crowd, and that can cause a little bit of shame, like, oh my God, like is everybody judging me? Like, I'm away. Do they think that I'm cold or I'm unfriendly, right? So it's very normal to think about that before coming to a social event, like, oh, I can be anxious in this event. The possibility of you being anxious about being anxious is something that is very normal, that it happens. Yeah.
It was a great conversation with you, a very insightful conversation with you. Thank you so much for all your valuable inputs.
Thank you so much. I had a great time here too.
This was it about anxiety. I hope you got the information that was required. I request you all to seek out for help if you could relate to this or if you feel like you might need it. We will see you in another episode. Until then, take care. Thank you.
Click on the bell icon to watch our latest videos.